Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Spindle TV Exclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, give me just 1 second. Hey, just in case you're missing it, we are live. We just started, and the link to tonight's class is in the community tab on the Spindle TV channel at the top of the channel. We have a new member that joined us tonight, and I want to make sure that that he makes it. Good guy. His name is Jerry Williams. But tonight I'm joined with JR and Charlie Hall. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. Absolutely great.
Awesome. Welcome Roger Brooks and Brooks Martin, Keith Kessler, Roger S. How you doing? Let's see, who else am I missing here? Rod Wallene, how's it going? While we were waiting for 8 o'clock to roll around, JR and Charlie and I were having a little bit of a conversation of, I am a wannabe research and developer, or an engineer, right? I'm a wannabe. I love making things, right? Making accessories and adding things where things probably shouldn't be added, but I love making jigs and all kinds of cool stuff and accessories, right? Things that could make production much easier and all. And I was telling JR that there is a device, and if any of you in the chat know the answer to this, I want you to holler it out in the chat. But I know that there is an item that, imagine if I have a half-inch aluminum plate, like a puck. And imagine at the bottom of that plate, it's got like a ramp to it, like almost kind of a spiral ramp. And then I have this device, this lever device, that if I rotate it, whether it's a wheel type rotation or a cam type lever or something, but when I rotate it, it also has a ramp on it. And when it rotates, it lifts, it elevates this aluminum piece up. And then when I close the lever, it let it down. And I called it a lever elevator, a lever lift, a lever raiser, a rotating. I don't know. I mean, I called it a lot of things. Like I Googled everything just to try to find this. And, it's as simple as, I know, like it's almost the same situation as if I turn a damn chapstick and that's a screw that raises the chapstick. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you twist it, it lifts up. When you untwist it, it raises down. There's some kind of cam action going on there. I'm going to design one. We're going to look at in class tonight something and the concept. And if any of you have ever seen anything like that in application and you know what it might be called, let me know. Because, what I want, here's the goal of it all, that when that lever, let's say the lever's closed and I pull that lever 90 degrees and it's got to have a positive stop, right? When I pull it 90 degrees, that part is elevated to its max height and it's precise and it's repeatable. When the lever closes, it's flush with the surface. And when it raises up, it's at its height. When it closes, it's elevated, that kind of thing. And I want those positive stops when I open the lever or close the lever, flip the switch, unflip the switch. I don't care what it is, right? I want it needs to be consistent because it's going to be a sensor of some sort, like a touch plate type thing. So if any of you have ever seen anything like that in action and you have an idea of what I could Google or what it's called, let me know. I'm trying to look at different design options. All right. So we had a request tonight in the comment section of the studio. We had a request that, I said, hey, throw out some topics and we'll talk about them. And everything. And in the comment section, we had one of our members say, how about a discussion on adding auxiliary equipment to Planet CNC, limit switches, coolants, cameras, that kind of thing, relays and all that stuff. While adding auxiliary equipment to Planet CNC is kind of controller specific. Adding accessories to your CNC machine, it should pretty much be, straightforward and consistent and everything. Now, I work with Digital Wood Carver, and our machines use Planet CNC TNG motion controller. A lot of other machines use their own controllers, or they might use Mach 3 or Mach 4, which are absolutely pioneers in the industry and everything. So what I talk about tonight when I'm discussing this stuff and everything, I'm going to try to make it as general as possible. It should be somewhat consistent in the information, but where it's added or set up in your controller and on your control board may vary, not slightly, dramatically, right? Depending on the control board design. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, my two guests, JR and Charlie, both of you have Digital Wood Carver CNC machines.
Roger that.
And I believe that's true for Charlie as well. Yes. And and a majority of you out in the field don't have digital wood carvers. Some of you do. Not everybody does. So understand that I'll try to be as general as possible, but it might vary. So let's talk about limit switches and proximity sensors and things like that, adding that to your controller. And what I want to do is, first of all, I'd like to do a mic check. I have a secondary mic when I'm turned to my other camera, which I'll be rotating to another overhead camera in just a moment. I won't be facing my current microphone. So I'm going to take a second. I'm going to switch to my secondary mic, and I want you to just tell me if the audio, give me a thumbs up if everything is good with the audio and stuff like that. So here we go. All right. So this is my second microphone. Let me know if it's clear, if it's staticky, if you can hear me, all that wonderful stuff. But that is my secondary mic. JR, how does it sound to you?
You sound muffled, but I can hear you.
I sound muffled.
Yeah.
So I might be able to bring that a little bit closer to me. Hold on a second. All right. I don't know if that clears it up any or not, but
100% better.
Okay. So just maybe make it a little bit closer to me. So that's only when I'm on the second camera. We're going to switch back to mic one, and we'll go from there. So that's I just want to make sure y'all can hear me when I'm turned sideways and stuff. All right, cool. Let's see here. Clear but low. Okay, so that's all right. Hold on a second. I didn't adjust the volume on that particular mic, and it is low. You're absolutely right. Let me bring it up to the other levels in line with everybody else. And really quick, one last time. This is the secondary mic. I might be a little too high. I'm peeking at some yellow points, but sorry. That is that's where we're at. All right. Okay. So let's switch over to camera 3, guys. I'm gonna be back with you in just a minute, JR and Charlie. I'm gonna switch over to the camera, and I want to just talk real quick about proximity sensors and limit switches and stuff. So let's switch over to this, and let's switch over to camera. Let me work on my camera align. Wonderful. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get me out of the picture. There we go. Excuse the cardboard. That's my low-tech computer cover, right? So what you see on the screen here are on your, it's in my hand. I don't know if it's your camera left, my camera right, because it's the the camera is upside down for me. But this is a proximity switch. This is a limit switch. Okay. So a proximity sensor, proximity switch, but proximity sensor is the proper term. A proximity sensor, it works by emitting an electromagnetic field or beam. And when that beam is broken or that magnetic field is broken, then it activates a signal in the controller. And it is designed, both of these items are designed to detect the presence or absence of an object, right? And they both have their similarities, but they also both have their differences and everything. So a proximity sensor, like I said, is an electromagnetic beam or a magnetic field, and it is used to sense position, direction, velocity, all without physical contact. You know, so there would be a in a lot of cases, there's a little tab, a metal tab or something mounted to the machine, or something that when it breaks the beam or it breaks the magnetic field within a certain distance of the sensor, then it triggers the action. And in our case, when it's used on the CNC, it triggers that stop, you know, that sensor, that stop and everything. There are 5 different types of proximity sensors that I'm not like a proximity sensor guru by any means or anything like that. But the you have inductive, optical, which kind of visual sensor or beam. You have ultrasonic, magnetic, and capacitive. This one I believe is magnetic, and it emits a magnetic field and everything. The limits or the proximity sensors that I use on my DWC 2440, they are also magnetic, but they look a little bit different. They're flat and everything. And what I'll do is, let me see if I can pop them up on my screen. Maybe. There they are. So if I switch over to camera 2 for just a moment, these are the proximity sensors that I use on my digital wood carver. And they're great. I have these magnetic stops that once I have these metal stops, basically the tabs, if you will, that once they're within a certain, basically that center line. I don't know how well you can see that center line here on that sensor, but when that metal plate is within that perimeter there, it kind of stops it, right? It lights up a little LED and it stops the machine cold in its tracks. So that's what I use. And then our larger CNCs use these type of magnetic proximity sensors. Now, rocker and roller switches and lever switches and plunge switches, these are limit switches, and these are also used to detect the presence or absence of an object, just like this one. But these are contact. So there is a lever arm that, when made contact, the actuating arm triggers a switch, which triggers a signal back to the controller, and whatever it may be. You'll see these a lot, like with on conveyor belts or something, for counting objects and things. 3D printers will use lever type limit switches for their, to determine where their, printer head is and things. Smaller CNCs, use rocker type switches and things. And this one is a roller type switch when it makes contact and everything. But you have whisker switches, you have roller, lever, and plunger. And whisker is just basically, it's kind of like a spring, that when something makes contact with it, it triggers it and everything. These are the actuator when it makes contact with the object, or when the object makes contact with the actuator, however you want to say it. It sends the signal to the controller, and you'll see a lot of this in counters, like, on conveyor belts, like I said, checking spacing on products going down the line, counting objects and things. You will see that quite often and everything. Now, while these are just fine to use, on a CNC machine, for X, Y, and Z limit switches and things, you're most likely going to see the proximity sensors. These are taking over, really. Proximity sensors of different styles are taking over on most CNC machines, and they're kind of replacing, these lever actuator type switches and stuff. But both have their advantages and disadvantages and things. But no matter what, these are very, very much similar items that do similar things. However, this one is contactless. Okay, this one is contact. Your gantry, your whatever is making contact while it's just passing, here and everything. So that's the difference between the two switches. Now, switching away, the control board that you see on the screen here, this, and let me see what's going to be upright for you guys. This is the Planet CNC's control board. This is the brain, just like Mach 3 has its own control board and all the other CNCs have the controllers. This is the brain. This is from a company called Planet CNC. And along the back side of the, let's see if I can pull that a little bit straight down here. Along the back side are the axes. So this is a 4-axis control board. USB import on the front, and down the side we have our outputs, our limits, where our limit switches go, our inputs and input signals. We'll talk about them in just a minute. And then we have our control signals and everything. Now, limit switches such as the proximity switch or the limit switch, actuated limit switch, they would go into here. So let's take just a quick look here. And it may vary from switch to switch on as far as the wiring and everything, but typically you will have a 3-wire system on your device. And the blue wire is your negative, in this case, the brown wire. Now this is a 0 to 24 volt proximity sensor. Not 0, that's a lie. 5 to 24 volt DC. And I'm so sorry. My limit switches I use on my machine are 5 to 24 volt. This was 6 to 36 volt DC. So you have your AC or your DC. I'm getting confused there. You have your DC positive is typically your brown. DC negative is going to be your blue. And then black is going to be your signal. Black is going to go, into your limits 1, 2, or 3. Now on the control board, let me see if I can, let me find my correct screwdriver here. Let me take these wires out of the way. I have these wires connected so I can manually activate sensors and test them and all that stuff. Let's take off this one. So on the limit switches, we have, this has the ability for 4 limit switches. Now, both, most times on a CNC machine, you will have a limit switch on your negative side and not on the positive side. Now, some machines do both, limit switches on both sides of the travel of the axis and everything. And if you do, that's fine. Both the positive side limit switch and the negative side limit switch connects to the same terminal on the board. So I can have my X, Y, and Z would be limit switch 1, 2, and 3. And if I have an X positive and a Y positive and a, or an X positive and an X negative, a Y positive and a Y negative, the Y's will go on, let's say limit switch 1, limit switch 2 would be my X's, limit switch 3 would be my Z, and then 4 could be my rotary axis if I had one, right? Or something like that. But you'll have a place on your control board for those limit switches. Now, when it comes to accessories like a digital probe, okay, and let me see, sorry about the blurriness, if we can get things to focus here. The digital probe, and this in itself is kind of a switch as well, right? It's a sensor, and it is an actuating arm, and when it makes contact, it breaks the signal, and it is designed to probe warped, twisted, cupped, curved boards, or also 3D items for duplication and things. And this is an input signal. This is like your Z touch tool for setting your Z height and everything. A probe can be used to set X, Y, and Z locations. Absolutely. Typically, you don't see that very often. You would see that in machining. When they'll run a probe along the edges of a metal block that they're about to mill, aluminum block or something. You'll see that in metal milling and stuff. You'll see probes get used often. But in the woodworking world, probes are not used for setting X, Y, and Z. We have little touch blocks and things for that. Probes are typically for 3D digitizing or creating a point cloud for either duplication or repair, whatever the situation may be, and also to allow us to carve on warped, twisted, curved, and cut boards. So that is a sensor, and it's an input. That's an input signal. The limit switches are a limit signal. Now, your control boards may have, most likely all control boards. I think I've seen on all control boards there is limit. There's a place for limits. As well as inputs and outputs. Now, outputs, these are things like air blowing on a part. Let's switch over to the controller software, and let's switch over to camera 2 for a moment. And let me turn on my mouse pointer so you can see where the mouse is. Mouse highlight. All right, so we'll move this over here for right now. See if I can get my mouse highlight to work here. In here, this is Planet CNC TNG, by the way. But here we have our spindle on or off, or a router. We have our mist, and we have our flood. Now, of course, mist and flood, if we look at, let's go to here, and let's click on this here. Let this pop up. Give it just a second. This is a flood tank that could be added to a CNC. And it has an actuator here that air will push in. The air will come through, and it's self-priming and everything, but it basically creates kind of like there's suction, blowing and sucking and all that stuff, but it floods your part, just floods it with water or liquid coolant, if you will. And you'll see this a lot in metal machining and things. If we were to look at, let me see if I have the original I do not have the original photo, but the in most industrial situations and all, in big turning centers and things like that, they have a flood tank. They've got a water bed basically that, this part gets flooded as it's getting milled, and all that fluid gets captured, filtered through, and sent right back into the tank. And it's a recycling system and stuff. Now, aside from the flood, there's also misting tanks too, to where you can adjust the valve, and it's like almost like a little mister, like a little, you'll see it it's just a kind of a drip, just to kind of add a little bit of oil to, or cutting oil, like if you're metal milling and stuff, it just kind of lubricates the surface ever so lightly, and at certain intervals you can set those intervals. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then there is one that doesn't require a tank and all. It has the same kind of actuating little flexible arm here, but it's a blower. It's straight air. And you'll see that also a lot in metal milling and stuff, or even in some woodworking situations. But on a CNC, basically it's used to blow away chips, keep your bit cool in situations where you can't have it heat up. And also in metal milling, if I'm milling aluminum on my CNC, I want the chips to get blown away, because I don't want my bit recutting chips. It's bad for the bit, and it could damage it and everything. So air, and it requires an air compressor and all. Now, all of these, the flood, the mist, the air, those are all outputs. The spindle is an output. So on the control board, on your outputs and everything, most control boards, like on this particular one, there are 3 outputs, and each of these particular 3 have pulse width modulation, a laser that requires, certain settings from 0 to 100% and everything, different pulses and stuff. Spindle going from 0 to 24,000 RPM. That's pulse width modulation. We can change the spindle speed from 0 to 24,000 to 16,000 to 12,000. We can adjust that pulse and everything. And so most boards will have at least 3, up to 3, that have pulse width modulation. But I might have a board with 8 different outputs, or I might have a breakout board with 8 outputs or something that just are outputs on off, on off, on off, that don't have pulse width modulation. So my flood, my mist, my air would all be on a regular output. And this particular board, I don't have a breakout board to show you, but that when it triggers, when you trigger the switch, it triggers a relay. The relay turns on the mist, turns off the mist, turns on the flood, turns off the flood, turns on the air, turns off the air, right? It's on off, simple on off. With pulse width modulation, we can turn on and off, but we can also adjust the pulse. So we can go from 0 to 24,000 RPMs. We can go from 0 to 100% on the burn power of our laser, that kind of thing. And so that's your outputs. So that's those devices. And on the in the software, basically, if I go into the settings of my particular software, we have in the menu of the settings, we have it broken down like coolant, right? Coolant. So there's mist and flood in the coolant and everything. And so I assign the output pin, right? And again, on my standard board, I just have 1, 2, and 6, but on a breakout board, I can have up to 8, outputs and everything. And so, let's say that I'm set on output 5 for my my mist, my interval. So I can set the interval, when it's on, like how often it actuates, and everything, and then off. I can set the off. I probably wouldn't set an interval on that, but I could have it kind of like cycle, on off, when I want it to drip and stuff. With the flood, the basically the interval on and off, I would probably, let me set that back so I don't forget in here, because this is my master settings and stuff. But if I go into the help menu just for a second in this particular software, and I'll just pop over to the manual. I love this software, and it's easy access to things and all. But if I come into the, let's go to our coolant here, our interval and everything. Let's see here. Let's go to our, oh, are you not going to tell me what the interval is for? It's not going to let me do. Of course not. Let's see here. Let's look at. Yep, not going to tell me what the interval is for, but I would want the flood constantly on, so it's probably would be just set to 0 or 1. I'd have to, talk with Andre to see exactly what setting. When I turn it on, it's on. When I turn it off, it's off. But I could set an interval, if I wanted like to actually trigger on and off, when at the start of a job and at the end of a job, I can have it trigger automatically based on my G code and stuff. Now, the other thing that we can add to our machines are cameras, and telescoping type cameras are great for a lot of different things. For zeroing out is where people mostly use them and everything, but you can create a mount with a endoscope type camera. This is a USB camera, and once the camera is set up, there's no inputs or outputs that you have to set. It automatically is detected. So when we show the camera, I can come in and I can, see what options are available for the camera, depending on and right now I can't see my camera 3, which would normally be this because it's in use right now with StreamYard and everything. So TNG won't show a camera that's already in use. But on the camera, let's switch it back to kind of this red screen for just a moment. I can do, I can zoom. I wish I could show. I don't have a camera that's not in use by StreamYard right now, so it won't show anything. But on the camera, I can fine tune the focal point and everything. So when I'm zeroing out on my X and Y, and what I can do is where my camera is positioned, there is an offset that I can set that is the distance between my camera's focal point and my router bit center. And so when I set that particular offset and everything, I can, once that's programmed in, then I can do things like machine position or coordinate system or work position. So I can put my camera right over my X and Y mark, my pencil marker, whatever it is. And then I can set my X and Y 0 based off that camera position. And then I can do a move. I can move the router position to the camera, or I can move the camera to the router position. So I can make that move, whatever it is, whatever those coordinates are, my offset coordinates and stuff. And most, I don't know for sure what, let's switch back to, give me just a second here. Switch back to me for just a moment. Right. There I am. When it, and of course, I said I was going to use my other mic when I was turned sideways. Hopefully, y'all could hear me because I didn't turn my other mic on at all. I forgot I even had it on me. But hopefully, you could hear me. I don't know. I don't have a good recommendation for like a camera or anything like that. I do know that the endoscopy type cameras, scope, let's see here, microscope type cameras and things like that, they are really well, but it's just USB. So USB-C, once it's plugged into your computer system, then the controller should pick it up. There's no special programming. There's nothing to wire to the control board or anything like that. It's all done by, it'll detect whatever camera is plugged in to your computer at the time and everything. But of course, you're going to need a camera that has a long lead, right? Depending on the size of your CNC machine, it needs to be able to move around with the machine, the cabling and stuff. So that's a consideration as well too. Now, of course, this can be hardwired, and then run, an extension, or put an extension on it with a signal repeater, however far back your controller box is, from where your machine is and stuff. So you want to keep, things like that in mind. So limit switches and proximity sensors, again, same type of item. One is contactless, proximity sensor. Limit switch is contact, right? Those are your limit switches, limits. And you'll see most controllers will have that like isolated limit switches, because that's kind of a thing for the control boards. But outputs, spindle is an output. Flood is an output. Air is an output. Heck, if I want every time my machine is running, when I hit start and I need a red light flashing in my cage or something because I'm at a school and I need that light kind of flashing indicating that the machine is on, that is an output, right? That's an output. It goes to the control board and stuff. And to trigger that output, you have specific code that you can pre-program in your G code or in your post processor or something that triggers output 1 or output 2, or flood on G93, flood off G92, I think it is, or something like that. You can there's G codes that's kind of associated with that and stuff. The M3, right? Spindle on. M5, spindle off, that kind of thing. And so and when it comes to the flood and mist, coolant, it's commands M7 on and M9 off for your mist, and for the flood, M8 and M9. Okay, so M7 is mist, M8 is flood on, M9 is off for either one of those two, and everything. So you can have that programmed into your G code and stuff like that. So when someone was asking about that, you just wire it to the correct output, and then you could call for it in your G code or post processing or what have you. Automatic tool changer, the air that opens the clamp to grab to when the spindle goes down, the air that closes the clamp, that's an output, that open and close of that clamp. The if it's an air pneumatic rack that comes out to present the tools and close, that pneumatic valve, that opening and closing, that's an output. if I this is something that I don't know if we're going to be doing in the in an upcoming build of a machine, but we have a school for the blind that's interested in purchasing a CNC machine, and their students have visual disabilities from partially blind to fully blind. And they do amazing things. They're 3D printing, they're laser engraving and stuff like that. And so CNC is kind of a, something that the students have been asking for and all. And so safety wise, I might want, when the machine is running, I might want some type of tone that beeps, some audible kind of tone that they can, with a speaker, something mounted in this, like on the gantry, so they can hear when that gantry is close to them or far from them and things like that, so they can kind of detect the position from just the audible sound. That would be an output, right? Things like that. So yeah, let's let me pop up the questions and answers here. LOL Laney, where's your ESD mat? That was funny. Let's see here. The what is that? Electro? Isn't that anti-static? Like a safety mat and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you saying that because I was messing with the proximity sensors and stuff in the control board? Didn't have no gloves on, didn't have no kind of protection. I wasn't grounded at all. But good question. Who asked that question? Was that JR? Who was that that asked that question? Let me see here.
That was Brooks.
That was Brooks, of course. Now, limit positive and limit negative. Is that say Y positive and Y minus limits? Yes. Yeah. So on the control board, let's really quickly. I don't know. Let's really quickly on the control board. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer here on the limits. So the positive and negative of the axis would go on the same limit port. So limit 1 would be my X, positive or negative, or both. Limit 2 would be my Y, limit 3 would be my Z, that kind of thing. And then 4 could be whatever I wanted it to be. It could be any axis or, something like that. So both the positive and the negative would connect to the same port, because it's never going to read both at the same time. It's either going to be triggering the positive limit switch or the negative limit switch, right? So both of them will trigger that limit switch number 1. And in the software, when we're in the software and everything, when we come to the settings and everything, when we go to the limit switches, like if I typically you only see one limit switch per axis. But if I did have 2 limit switches and all, I would just set this one, the negative, to limit switch number 2 and the positive limit switch number 2. So it triggers that limit switch, but generally you'll see limit switches in the negative on the X and Y, and then on the positive on the Z, so it doesn't raise up too high. You'll typically see that. Very rarely do you see limit switches on both ends, but some people like that extra thing. But we have what's called soft limits for that. So soft limits, when I do my homing procedure on a CNC machine and it detects those limit switches and it homes itself, when I go to move the distance of the machine, the soft limits are active. So from my limit switch being 0, absolute 0, to let's say 26 inches in the positive direction, when it hits that countdown on my position, when I reach 26 inches, the machine stops itself and says, hey, you've reached your machine limit, because I programmed in the travel, the cutting area of my machine, the absolute limit of travel, giving a little cushion, right? To give myself a little bit of cushion, 1/4 of an inch or something like that. But give yourself that cushion, so that way the machine, it's called soft limit. So once I have my limit switches set on the negative side, My soft limits control the positive side and everything. So that's that and everything. The Brooks Martin Cam Master has a crosshair laser to zero out X and Y in the offset macro from the laser pointer to the bit center. Absolutely. That's 100% the same thing. So bear with me just a second. It's better for the eyes. So green cross laser. Give me just a second here. Which is see if I can stand by just a second. Laser 2. If I come in here and let's pop open laser 2, maximize that. So a crosshair laser. I like green. Green's better for the eyes and everything. It's like the red dot you hear on like a firearm. I have a green dot. It's better for the eyes. Your eyes pick it up quicker. But green. So green is good. But a crosshair. So you can have a laser mounted, near your CNC, on a little plate, and you can put that crosshair right on your X and Y position. And when you zero out there, you could have it prompt you in the controller if you used your bit or your crosshair. And if you say I used my crosshair, then it knows the offset and automatically programs that. Or when you, Yeti Tool does that. Yeti Tool Smart Bench and everything, the Smart Bench, they have a green crosshair that when they touch off, it asks them, did you zero out with your crosshair or your bit? You choose crosshair, then it puts in that offset and everything. And so you can program in that offset. We have our laser, our 6-watt or 45-watt laser in the controller software. We go back to the controller software. I have a icon here called R2L, router to laser. And so when I'm carving and everything, my router and my laser, where it's mounted on my CNC, that offset, X and Y offset distance is a known distance. So if I'm zeroed out with my laser doing a laser engraving and then I need to do some routing, I can click this button here and it's going to move the router to the laser position and zero out the router at the zero position, for where the laser is. So I bring the laser back home to XY0, and then I move the router to the laser position, and it automatically moves over and zeroes out the router at that location. And then I can go and start doing my routing and stuff. And in laser mode, I have L to R, laser to router. I can do it the opposite direction, right? And then, we have accessories like the Digital Wood Carver Laser Guide, which is a crosshair that mounts to our, 2440 model CNC for that crosshair and everything. So absolutely, it's a great way for zeroing out. Let's see here. Let's look at electrostatic discharge things. Have you noticed any issues on the 2440 not using an optocoupler board on your limit switches? Absolutely not. No. You can use optocoupler boards by any means, if you would like. If we were to look at, give me just a second here. Give me just a moment. If we go to here, CNC zone on my particular board, and we go to home. Let's see, bear with me just a second. Manuals that. Home. Get down to my controllers. There we go. MK34. Let's see. On the limit switch, can y'all see that? On the limit switch wiring and everything, I believe, let me see if he shows. Let's see, that's the motor. Ground. That's direct wiring. Yeah, it doesn't even have any ISO couplers on there. So when it calls for ISO optimization and stuff like that, Andre, the owner of Planet CNC, has opto couplers and stuff in there, and he will say that. And but
I think it's on the website.
Yeah, probably so. He has optocouplers on his website, and all, but if it doesn't necessarily require it, he doesn't, it's not wired. So no, to answer your question, I have no issues, Rob, with my limit switches at all. They're connected directly to the board in both cases of our commercial units and our 2440 Rob. All right, let's put that stuff away. Now, let's go to camera 2. Let's take camera 2. Let's throw me in there, and let's put me down in the bottom corner. All right, so the inputs, your Z touch tool is an input. Digital probe is an input. A fixed tool height sensor is an input. On tool changing spindles, when a tool is present, that's an input. That input signal when the tool is present, showing that the tool is present, that's an input. So inputs are basically your sensor type signals that are indicating, the detection or presence of like your touch off tools, or when a contact breaks on a probe and things like that. I'm not really great with the technical jargon and all, but that would be that. Aside from those type of things, laser crosshairs, right? Cool stuff that you can add to it. Cameras, your flood and mist, if you had that, that situation going on. The blower is a big one, so it requires a lot of air, and everything. And I have a large compressor in my shop, but man, oh man, I'm waiting for the day that I decide to get off my lazy butt and build an outside enclosure for my vacuum and my compressors to go into, to get them out of the shop, to kind of somewhat muffle the sound. Because I only mill metal every once in a while, non-ferrous metals every once in a while, and to have that blower constantly, that compressor constantly running, it's loud, right? So and everything. Now, aside from mechanical things, right, that we can attach to it. We can also add all kinds of cool stuff to our CNC, like we already do. You know, we attach, you know, spoil boards and things like that. Well, there's one particular item that back in the day, I mean, that, you know, was, you know, vacuum clamping, right? We talked about vacuums and stuff. Well, back in the day, I bought my machine back in 2014, and I designed, you know, a vacuum plenum and all. And unfortunately, this particular design didn't work for this was my initial kind of design. It didn't work because I couldn't plumb from underneath, because I had things underneath that moved back and forth, right? There was no way to put plumbing. So now on my 2440, I have the Storm vacuum system. Let's go to Aspire. And my plenum, the plumbing is on the backside. So these plumbing zones have changed from the center to the backside, which should pop up here in just a second. It's a big file. At first, I thought, you know, in my first iteration, I thought, you know, I have the joint maker jig. It's a jig that mounts to the front of the machine, and you know, if I want plumbing on the front, I'd have to clear out spot for my jig to mount there. I can't have anything, you know, the plumbing in the way. And then I had plumbing in the back. You know, I had 4 different zones, and that was a little bit much. What I ultimately ended up deciding on was this design, where the plumbing is in the back. Now, if we take a look at, and I know I won't get a copyright strike on this one because it's my video. So hold on a second. If we take a look at a video that is about to go out, let's mute this bad boy for a second. We'll mute this. How many instances did I open? Hold on a second. There we go. All right. So let's switch over to my 2440. Look at that handsome devil right there. Oh my goodness gracious. Let me see if I can get a shot of my unit here. So on my 2440, let me see. I know I got a close up of my unit somewhere. Hold on a second. Look at that. Ooh, look at that. Let's back up here. That's the unboxing. That's the Storm. Oh, I know there's somewhere right here. All right. Oh, back it up, Jack. So my plumbing is in the back now, off the back side of the table. And from there, the plumbing comes down. I have 2 blast gates. I have 2 zones. I can open and close each zone with the blast gates, you know, under my particular table frame. And from there, I know I'm jumping around, but hold on a second. This video will be live shortly. God, who's that guy? Let me see here. Bear with me. There was a lot of stuff I covered in this video, but from the blast gates, it goes down right into the Storm, which is set positioned under the table and all. But now on top of this, this is the open plenum, right? Now the plenum, when it's complete and everything, you see this white part on the back, that is PVC board. I've recently painted it black now, but that covers the vacuum. So that directs the vacuum through those channels on the table. So there's threaded inserts, and it screws down. So here's a little clip of, well, here's a, hold on a second there. Look there. Come on now. So it screws down. There's threaded inserts in there. And what that does is that now takes that vacuum suction coming through those pipes, and it directs it through the table, out through these channels and everything. And then my wasteboard sits right on top of that. There's no gaskets or anything like that. It just sucks right down to it and everything. And the wasteboard is only as large as my cutting area. So my CNC's maximum travel distance, the wasteboard is only that large. And when the vacuum's on, it sucks down flat, and all that stuff. It's been surfaced and all. And so each machine in some way would have a plenum. Well, Garrett, not too long ago, right? Garrett from IDC Woodcraft, he showed off All-Stars, I believe All-Star CNC. He showed off their air weights. I'm talking about your All-Star, so don't give me a copyright strike. The air weights vacuum plenum. And it's designed to be used with a small vacuum pump. And it comes in different sizes, 24 by 24, 24 by 28 and everything. And I'd love to be able to show like a little bit more of it, but air weights, like weightlifting, air weights, vacuum plenum and everything. Cool stuff with it and all. Hey, give them a shout out and all that stuff. Well, anyway, before back in the day, I have a small vacuum pump. JR knows this. I've talked with JR, about my little vacuum pump and everything from joewoodworker.com and veneerpress.com, veneersupplies.com, I think it is, but joewoodworker.com gets you there. I started out with little vacuum pods, right? Little vacuum pods and everything. And now I have this vacuum table. But what if someone, now the Storm vacuum is 19, hold on a second. It is Storm 1695 and everything. So what if somebody doesn't have 1695 to throw out right now for a big vacuum and all, but they would love to, they would be cool to have a vacuum thing. So what I would like to do is I'd love to give Airweights a little bit of competition. Love you, Airweights. Don't know you, but I'd like to compete with you a little bit. This is where that device that I was talking about at the beginning of our class comes into play. I would like, when I have my wasteboard on, right, my MDF wasteboard, when I'm cutting through and stuff, and my vacuum is going to suck through or can suck through thin, wasteboard if I have a small vacuum pump and everything. I'd like my, I wonder, should I say it out loud? No, I'm just kidding. I'd like my touch plate, my touch sensor to be kind of built into this thing, right? So I'd like when I'm not using it, it's down. It's like, a lever switches, it drops down. But when I do use it and I flip it up, it comes up and it's precise every single time, and it raises up and it'll be a known height, 1/2 inch, 3/4. I don't care. It's going to be low profile, but this way, when I touch off, I am. Oh, sorry, give me just a second. I am prompted, like in my code, my script that would work with this controller system and all. Would prompt the user, if they're using their vacuum pump and everything, because they can manually, with a switch of a button can be added to the Planet CNC software, all the scripts and buttons and everything, like for the quick set block we do and stuff. So in my controller, I'd have a button that would turn on the vacuum and turn off the vacuum. It would also turn on and off. I could have it. Probably would be a good idea just to have it on before I even start, but I could have it in my G code too to turn on and off, but that would make no sense. But I would like, if I'm cutting through or something, that I'm going to have a wasteboard on. This plenum, in a sense, is kind of designed where it doesn't really require wasteboard. You can use rubber gaskets to seal off the area that you want to vacuum and everything, that you want to just clamp on, and you just use that rubber gasket. Well, if I'm doing that, right? If I'm doing that, and I'm not on a wasteboard, I'm when I touch off on my touch plate, I want to be able to, set my Z automatically with my software. When I push a button, it goes and sets it and everything. I want to be able to flip a switch to raise it up. If I have a wasteboard on there, it elevates this to be even with the wasteboard, and the wasteboard will be a fixed wasteboard. If done right and everything, regardless of if you're vacuum clamping or mechanical clamping or whatever, there's absolutely no reason for you to beat up your wasteboard, to cut into it. It's a sacrificial spoil board. Don't get me wrong. It's designed in a sense. The whole purpose of it is to kind of protect your tabletop and cut into it. But mine's a jig. My wasteboard, might be a jig. There might be grid lines cut into it. And I don't want to surface it every time I cut into it. And I don't want to cut into it, period. I can cut through my material, completely cut through my material, not leaving a skin or anything like that, and not have any tool marks on my wasteboard at all. I don't surface my wasteboards, and that the wasteboards are designed for the digital woodcarver CNCs. They're not meant to be cut into, and everything. And so when I do have this wasteboard on, this MDF wasteboard on, or whatever it is, I want my touch plate to be able to elevate up to it. I want this little fixed lever. May not make sense right now. You may not be able to visualize it or understand what I'm trying to get at and everything, but there's a purpose for it. And I had a customer that I'll tell you where this stemmed from. I had a customer the other day said, I have never zeroed out on my machine bed. One, because I like using your quick set block, the digital woodcarver quick set zeroing block, which zeroes out X, Y, and Z, and it sets Z between tool changes and everything with the click of a button. And that block, when you set Z, it's designed to hook on top of your material. And the router, no matter where the router is on the table, it knows when you hit set Z, it knows exactly where to go to come back to that block to touch off and set Z when you do a tool change. So I can change the tool, hit set Z, it knows exactly where to go to come and touch off. It's almost like a fixed sensor, but it's a movable one, right? It's our touch block. And the customer says, but that is set to touch off on the material surface. If I were working off the machine bed like you're trying to get me to do, because I was really telling them, start learning to use the machine bed. Start learning to use the machine bed when you're cutting out and stuff. It guarantees you always cut through your material and you never beat up your wasteboard. But he said, but how do I do that? I love using this quick set block, but it's set for the top of the material. How do I fix it? And I said, well, after you do your XYZ touch off, then you come over here and you move your block onto the board and you come over and touch off and set your Z, on the lower level. And it requires that extra step. But it also, I can't use my automatic set Z button because that knows where it goes to a certain spot on the table. If I'm moving that block over to touch off on my wasteboard, it's not, when I hit set Z, it's not going where it's not going to be where it's supposed to be, right? So I want an attachment that is built in, that regardless of if I'm zeroing out on the material surface or the machine bed, I'm prompted, and my software, my software will prompt me, and it will say, hey, are you touching off on the machine? It'll touch off on the same spot, but it'll do the math, right? It does the math. It'll add in the material thickness or it'll take it away depending on what I am. And that's just simple coding. There's nothing, no device required from that. But I thought, man, if I could actuate my touch plate to where it's out of the way, it's always there, always there. It's built into the wasteboard, built into whatever. It's always there. Screws in, it mounts in. It's a perfect spot, but I can flip a lever and I can bring it up. I can drop it down, whatever the case may be. But I can get it out of the way. And I don't know. I'm getting off on a rant, but that's what that device was for, and that's what I want. I want to develop it, and there's a reason for it, and it all come together when I figure it out. But Another thing, real quick, that you can add to your CNC machines, if you have a water-cooled spindle, depending on your CNC machines, sometimes you might have a water pump, like an aquarium pump type thing, and a tank, right? So you have hoses that come through your machine, through your drag chain and all that stuff, and they go down to a water tank and everything. Or your CNC might have an onboard cooling system that travels with the machine, with the gantry. You know, it's got all the coolant and everything, and it just cycles right through their onboard cooling system. So that could be something that could be added on if someone who wanted to eliminate the water tank and hoses running, you know, on their shop because they want to clear up their shop floor. It could be a mounted system. And build your CNC is an actual website, buildyourcnc.com. And they have all kinds of cool little, they got wires and cables and motion electronics. So it's all these things to build your CNC, right? Well, one of the things that they have in there in your, it's under the spindle and coolant category is the, they call it your compact spindle cooling kit. And includes a little radiator and a fan, pump, and a small tube reservoir, short lines that go to your spindle, and it can be mounted and built on board. You know, cool stuff. Pretty soon, you know, there's a cool need. I eliminated my tank and I put a built-in system, but my system is built in and it's mounted to the wall, my wall. So my CNC is tied to that particular corner of my room. When we were looking at that video on the screen here, behind the black box vac banner, if you will, let's see if there's a shot of my control box. If there's a side shot of my control box. So way back there behind the banner there, that green control box on the wall, that is my CNC control box. And inside of that, it's got a computer cooling system, like a water cooling system like you use in computer systems and all. And it's got a computer cooling system in there for my spindle, right? So, but I'm tied to the wall now. So one of these days, that cooling system will be built onto the CNC. So there's all kinds of things that you can add in. And so I'm rambling now. I want to answer some more questions. But I would like to design a vacuum plenum with you guys one day in one class. Small scale vacuum plenum that could be used on any CNC machine with a small vacuum pump. And, one day we might be able to do that. It's going to involve things like Mac valves, these Mac ball valves, so that seal the air. But when you put something down on it, the ball compresses, opens up the valve so the vacuum can suck. You'll see that a lot of times in little vacuum pods and stuff. Well, the plenum, the little portable any CNC plate will include that kind of stuff and all. But if you're wanting a ready-to-go made system, the air weight system, a little pricey, $1,720 for a 24 by 48 system. They're 24 by 44, 24 by 24. I would assume is a little bit cheaper. Let's see here. They're $849, right? That's a good chunk of change, right? And absolutely worth every penny. And, for what it is and what it does. It comes with a vacuum pump. It comes with a little alignment pins, and it comes with mats. It comes with this. It comes with that. It comes with gaskets. It comes with everything, right? It's a ready-made kit. If you ever wanted to experiment with that, you know, they're good people. Black Box sells some of their stuff as well too, and we work with Black Box, so I don't mind recommending them. But I see things like that, and I think, man, I want to design one, but I want it to have these features and this feature, and I want it to do this, and I want it to be versatile like this. I want to be able to clamp this jig to it, and for my coasters, and they automatically vacuum down, and I can remove that jig and I can put this jig on, and they automatically vacuum down, and I can do this and I can do that, and my mind starts racing, and all these little accessories, little kits, and things that a customer could make on their CNC that would attach to this plenum, like, and there'd be a spot for it if they just follow the guidelines, or I don't know, all those cool things. All right, so what else could we add to a CNC? I want to hear you in the chat. What did I miss? So limit switch and proximity sensors, cameras, crosshairs, spindles instead of routers, probes, vacuums. What else can be added? I mean, there's a lot of things. That's stupid to ask that question that way. But what in a woodworking industry that's like right now available, I could go out and buy that accessory tomorrow kind of thing. What other things am I missing that could be added to it? Cylinders, pneumatic cylinders, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, hold on a minute. Give me just a second. I got to get back to all of you so I can see what you're saying, Jimmy. Shop saver, right? Who has Ron? Somebody has a shop saver in here, but they have pneumatic pins that pop up for alignment. They got 2 pins that pop up in the front, pins that pop up in the side for alignment. So he can just turn on those pins. These little pins pop up, and that's all it is, man. It's little pins pop up. You can make that stuff, right? It's just air that pops these pins up, and they're rigid enough that they're not, they're there, right? And it's just rods, right? That go through the table, but cylinders. And you can slide your work up against it, and it's like a fence. And when you turn the air up, they go away. They're out of the way. That's like that touch plate that I could actuate my touch plate with air, right? But no, I want it to be kind of levered action for those that don't have air or don't want to have a compressor running in their shop and all that stuff. Dial indicators, right? Dial indicators are great. Things. Lasers we've already talked about. But on your control boards, the brain of your control boards, generally your outputs would be most all the things that we talked about. Limit switches, there's 9. I can almost guarantee that on most control boards, there's ports for limit switches. They're isolated because that's a kind of a common thing, right? So it'll have a limit switches category, but outputs are anything that like if I want those pins to shoot up, that's an output, right? If I want my dust brush on my ATC to lift up out of the way, and I got pneumatic pistons that pull it up or something, that is a output. Sensors, fixed sensors and all that's inputs and stuff. We're sending an input signal and everything. And yeah, Rockler, JR said right there, Rockler has a very cheap vacuum setup and everything, and pods and stuff and everything. JoeWoodworker.com, my little vacuum pump, my little one, that's where I got it from. Jared, what did we say? It was around $575 or something like that. I mean, it was in the $500 or $600 range. And it was all the plumbing and all the pumps and a little foot actuator to turn it on and off, little foot pedal and everything, and all the fittings and all the little gauges and all that for the vacuum pump and stuff. It's a little tricky to get to, but JoeWoodworker.com, and Joe Woodworker, I'm giving you a shout out. Don't give me no trouble. But vacuum press parts, you would click on that, and then On the vacuum press parts, they have vacuums and they have all the parts and everything, right? But at the top, you can get the kits, and the kits include all of all of the hardware. And this is the one. This is the EVS2 kit. Is what I got, and I got mine with the 5 CFM vacuum pump. But let's see if it'll show a picture of that. But that's what the thing looks like. And you build your own little platform. It doesn't come. It comes with the plans to build a little platform. But heck, with a CNC, it's nothing, right? To cut out those two parts, and also the bracket that holds the PVC pipe and stuff like that. But the next picture, let's see there. That's the side view, right? And the next picture. There's the backside, so the little bracket that holds the pipes. Now, I didn't make mine like that. I used straps, metal straps to hold mine. That's a good idea. I mean, I might go back and remake mine. But here it is right here. So, don't tell me they're offering the parts with the kit now, but it includes all this stuff, right? All the hardware. Yeah, so the kit's with it now. The carrying base, uprights, the brackets, and everything all included. Shoot.
Yeah, that's a really good system.
Yeah, there's an ad on there. It's a great little feature and all that. But joewoodworker.com, check it out if you're ever interested in something like that. And also, hey, let's get CNC out of the mind for just a second. Veneering, right? Vacuum bags and vacuum clamping. I use my little vacuum pump on I got a little vacuum clamp for when I'm hand planing. Sucks my part down. I can hold it, or when I'm doing hand tool work, chisel work, and stuff like that. I use my vacuum pump for that. Veneering, vacuum, laminating and stuff like that. Yeah. Just any kind of vacuum clamping needs. It doesn't have to be just for the CNC. It's a great little kit for the shop. All kinds of cool stuff and everything. Yeah. Anyway, let me see here. What else do we have? Let's see. Let's go. Yeah, Airweights has a cool system, right? It's for exactly right. Let's see. Brooks, tell me what you mean. My concern with that approach is how repeatable is the max height tolerance issues. Let me know what part of our conversation that referred to, Brooks. You made a comment that I missed that said, my concern is that approach is how repeatable is the max height tolerance issues.
I think he's referring to your Z sensor position, your specialty project.
Yeah. My concern is the approach on how repeatable. No, when I make something, that's the thing. When I make something that I bring to market, precision is key, right? So it's going to be absolute, very repeatable. I want to say within 0.2 millimeters. So what is that? 8/10 thousandths of an inch. So that's about the plus or minus tolerance that I would be shooting for. If I and then it's got to have, if that's what you're referring to, Brooks, it's got to have a positive stop. Yeah, raising the Z0 position on the touch plate and everything. When it's mounted and when it's configured in its resting position or in its down flush position, let's call it, and everything, when it raises up, it's got to be, every time that thing is open and closed, it's got to be the same. So that has to account for a good seal, so no dust and debris or anything can get down in it to that, because if I come down and I'm touching off in my resting position, I've got dust and debris the guy got underneath, when it comes down, it might not be sitting all the way down. right? Even the smallest amount of dust or debris or anything that gets in and underneath that could throw that off. If there's, again, dust and debris on the raising, it could be something that limits it. What if my lever, when it opens, what if there's dust and debris there and it doesn't fully lock into the 90-degree position on that lever, to raise up to its fullest maximum? It has to be repeatable. It has to be repeatable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The part, it's not even worth being made if it can't be made tight and right. That's the only best way I can put it, right? So it all comes down to that. So yeah. So yeah, that would be a concern, and that's all part of the R&D. It's challenging everything, right? And questioning everything, not challenging. Question everything. Worst case scenarios. What could happen if this happens? What is this? What is that? How do we prevent this? How do we prevent that? What do we do? Right? Do we have a button that we can quickly check? Like if I'm doing the programming that actually, tells the machine where to go to, if I'm doing the coding, that a button that they push in their controller allows, sends it over to this location. There's darn sure going to be a function in there or something to where I push a button, I can, calibrate my Z plate, right? Or I can check the calibration, or I can see, if anything is off, right? I can test my height. So, and that's all codable. Anything like that we can do. What? Yeah. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, what else do y'all have? Do y'all have any questions for me before we on a plenum? I really want to make one. It would be a 2-sided project. I would be making it out of 3/4 inch AHDPE, most likely. It would have valves on the bottom side, all kinds of seals and gaskets. But if we decide to do that one day, if I decide to make one, I'll let you know. We'll do it in the class. What? Let's do it next week. Yeah, we can. I've already got it. I've already got the design. So hold on a second. Let me go back real quick. On my plenum, I had Black Box Vacuum said to me, they said, what's with the cross kind of in the middle of those? Usually you have the squares, right? You have your squares and then your gasket goes around and everything like that. And the cross allows the vacuum to get into these circular areas here, and it creates these little pinpoint vacuum areas, right? Instead of this space, this square, that being kind of a dead space when my material is flat on it, right? If you look at most, all the love in the world, right? Hold on a second. Hold on. Just Airweight, shout out, go check out their product, love it and all that stuff. But all right, so here, these squares, right? They've got the rubber square gasket that sits down and it compresses, right? So it creates that seal and everything. And the squares, in a sense, they're dead space, right? And things. So by creating these channel and these little pinpoints here, those squares are not dead space. It's not a large dead space area, and it really pinpoints that vacuum and stuff, so I can get better hold on smaller parts and things like that and stuff. So I really like that my channels that I put in mine in my plenum on the digital wood carver 2440. This is the design that is made for, let me see here. I know. There we go. Oh, back up, Jack. Stand by. Hold on, let's jump 30 seconds. Jump 30 seconds. Jump 30 seconds. Man, 30 seconds is a lot. I must have covered a lot in 30 seconds. Hold on a second.
Click on your timeline, Laney, and you should be able to drag it up and get a more precise control.
Drag it up. I'm on my time. I'm dragging on my timeline.
I'll see like the white line.
Oh, there we go. That's good. That gets me where. But those crosshairs again, same scenario, right? So it just creates that pinpoint error. Now I didn't put the little circle in this particular one. I didn't need it. This one was back from my original design. This one here was back from 2014. When I got my digital woodcarver, I immediately was thinking about vacuuming back in the day, but never did. Never knew nothing about it all. But so this was back in the day. But that cross in those plates and all minimizes that dead space, right? That dead space for more vacuum hold and everything. But yeah, JR, all right. So you're saying on my timeline, which is this bar right here.
Yeah, I know when you're looking at YouTube, if you click on that and drag it up, you can get a precise, almost like second by second.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is just a little video, the built-in Windows media player, so it's not. Okay. Yeah, it's not. I don't have it on YouTube just yet. Check out your controllers, right, and see what type of accessories you can add to your unit. I don't know a whole lot about Mach 3 or Mach 4, but I'm a quick learner. If anybody has any questions or something and you don't know the answer and nobody else does, you can throw a question in the comment section or something like that, and I'm happy to research and find an answer for you. And yeah, I don't know if Jerry Williams made it tonight. I didn't see any comments, but Jerry Williams, if you're out there, thanks for joining the Spindle TV exclusive members. Don't be shy. Ask questions. We love questions and everything. Doesn't particle board have inconsistent moisture swelling? Who's using particle board? You would never use particle board in a wasteboard or a vacuum plenum or anything like that. Now, if you're thinking that my board here is particle board, no, that's MDF. It's just sealed. It's glue sealed. It's airtight. There's no air leaks through this at all. It's got 4 layers of a glue water mixture, Mod Podge glue water mixture sprayed onto it, making it airtight, because of course I was going to use HDPE plastic at the time, but when I bought the material, it warped on me and I couldn't use it, so I had to get this plenum done, and it turned out phenomenal. But that's not particle board. Where's particle board? No, dude. Does MDF? So let me change it up. He's asking, does MDF have inconsistent moisture swelling? Where would you get moisture from? I mean, unless you got high humidity in your shop or something like that. No, MDF is flat, man. That's where most spoil boards are made, from MDF. Yeah, I've never had. What's that?
You shellac the snot out of this on all sides, right?
Oh yeah. I sprayed it. It wasn't shellac. It was Mod Podge and water. 80-20, 80% Mod Podge, 20% water mixture. 4 coats on after it was carved, of course. It was completely sealed and sprayed, and then the edges were rolled with the same mixture, and then the backside was sprayed. 4 coats, and it is completely airtight. Vacuum, I don't have any vacuum loss on this plenum.
So that's why you didn't put a seal around it.
Yeah, there's no need for it. There's no gasket required for this. Yep. Cool. So when the wasteboard is, let me show you. we'll kind of let's take a look at let's see here. Another great product I like is this PVC sheeting. I love this PVC sheeting. It's cheap, inexpensive, and it doesn't escape any vacuum either. I wouldn't use it. Only comes in 1/2 inch, I think. I've never seen it in 3/4, but I use it. Again, it's a directional. It takes that vacuum and directs it through the table, through those ports. But my MDF wasteboard, both sides, this wasteboard is milled down from 3/4 to 5/8. That was an ideal height to make it absolutely breathable, so I get the maximum hold. So the we'll mute this, and let's see if I can turn on that vacuum. So when I have small parts and everything, now that corner of that PVC that you see floating right there, that's outside of the vacuum area, and here's the vacuum. But those, even on my small parts and everything, it's locked in. The use of the grip lock mat on is also phenomenal for friction and stuff. But the only part that I ever have moving on is this one right here, because it was dusty right in the video. Once I wipe the dust off, so that's the thing you got to be mindful of in the vacuum and stuff is, a clean surface. So the it locked in fairly well, but the MDF, my wasteboard, is on top of that plenum. There's no gaskets underneath it at all. There's no need for it. I have no leakage. And my wasteboard, my MDF wasteboard, even though it is milled on the top and bottoms, so it's breathable, the edges are sealed on it, on that wasteboard. And I've had that wasteboard on that vacuum, the black box. We started working together when the woodworking shows, Georgia, right? Georgia woodworking shows before they closed down. What was that, in March? Something like that. And it's still the same wasteboard. No swelling or anything like that. I don't worry about any of that stuff. Sintra. What's Sintra? What's Sintra, Jared? Do you know what Sintra is? CINTRA. What's it? Let me look that up. Sintra. Sintra.
I've heard of it. I'm just drawing a mind blank.
Brooks is asking me Sintra question mark. Highway management. Hold on, that's not it. Database application, cloud migration. Sintra is one of the largest private developers in transport infrastructure. I'm assuming none of those are applicable. Brooks, what's Sintra?
I think it's the PVC stuff for the trim.
Oh, is that what it's called? The PVC sheet, Sintra? Cool. Bonus to anyone that knows what that part is right there that I just made. Come on, if you know the answer to what that part is on that table right there, throw it in the comment section. That part right there. If you know what it is, throw it in the comment section. All right. So the Sintra. Good. Is that so? Lowe's is where I get my PVC sheeting, and what I use it for. So the PVC sheeting, I use it for my jigs, like like I on my wasteboard, that MDF wasteboard, right? I can take a piece of sheeting that has pockets cut out of it that lay on it, and that it seals like certain areas, from vacuum loss and stuff, while my little pocket areas where my parts go, like coasters and all, they're just, in there. I use it for jigs. I have parts cut for that I can cordon off certain areas to minimize loss of vacuum. And then I also have the grip lock mat too, from Black Box Back. It's a foam mat that helps with friction and parts and all that stuff. But I use that PVC sheeting for my, there you go. It is, I like that PVC sheeting. I honestly, I stumbled across it at Lowe's, literally never even, I was looking for, something to make a plenum out of. And, because the piece of HDPE that I bought for $160, they sold it to me and it was warped. Big boat. And that stuff doesn't straighten out. HDPE, polyethylene, plastic, when it's deformed or warped, it's trash in a sense. Not really, but I laid that thing out in the sun and heated it up, and it flat again. And as soon as it cooled down, it went right back. And I was like, psh. I mean, literally, I was so mad. I wanted to go back to the company because they literally loaded it up in my truck, and I didn't pay any attention. I was just, picked it up and got back to the house, and it was like a banana, right? And I still have it out in the shop, and it was like, oh, that was going to be my plenum. So I went with the MDF, which was great. There was no problem there. But while I was buying the MDF, I was looking for something like an alternative to that HDPE, and I come across that PVC sheet. It came at a 24 by 48 cut, pre-cut piece and everything. And I 2 foot by 4 foot. I grabbed it, and it was too short for my plenum. My plenum has to be 56 inches, but I love that stuff for making jigs and everything out of it. It's great. So, yeah, I love. Yeah, you did too, Brooks. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, listen, tonight, I don't know if you got anything out of anything, but hopefully now you know the difference between limit switch and proximity sensors, contact versus non-contact, right? And then we'll go from there. Let's take a vote. Are we doing a vacuum table next week? Like a little plenum, a little vacuum for the vacuum pumps and stuff? Are we going to do something like that? We're going to design and make one both sides with all the air channels and everything? Are we going to do that, or what are we going to do? Give me something. What do y'all want to learn? You're paying for this stuff, right? What would you like to learn from me? Shout out in the chat. Shout out on screen, JR and Charlie. Whatever y'all want. And speaking of that, let me bring the guys. Wake up, gentlemen.
I think we lost Charlie.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
We lost Charlie last week. I felt bad at Charlie. I said, oh man, did I say something to make Charlie mad? But I didn't, ladies and gentlemen, because I asked everybody, I said, I think I made Charlie mad. Charlie said I did. He had to go. Yeah, vacuum table, JR says. All right, sounds good to me. Cool. What my goal is a table that we can make different sizes, right? That's modular. And not, when I say modular, that's a bad word. That it can be scalable, right? It can, that it can, depending on the size of your CNC or what you want. We're going to have just a kind of a base size, but then from there, the same concept it could be made bigger, right, or what have you, to fit. You just duplicate it. I want built into it. I want a tool sensor built into it. I want a place to where I can mount it on the table. The jig I can mount it anywhere on the table, but the tool sensor's there, and because that tool sensor is not just for height. It's gonna set my X and Y for the vacuum jig. So it's gonna be built into this jig, and I can zero out my X and Y and my Z right there from the built-in sensor, but when the sensor's not in use, it's out of the way. So my top of my vacuum is not obstructed with some little piece of metal sticking up like this. I want it to be tuckable, and everything, but it's when I'm ready to touch. And that was the reason for the raising, why I would want to raise it, is so I can touch off on the sides to set X and Y 0, right? Off the, and everything. That was the purpose for raising it. But I want that in there. I'll have that solution by the time that comes. And then more 3D modeling, right, is always high on my list. Sculpting tool. Yeah, sculpting tool's high on my list too. I don't know how to sculpt, but we'll play with it. Yeah, I'm not a sculptor, but we can work around there. Learning more about cross sections and rail sweeps and stuff, all kinds of cool stuff like that, right? Yeah, we can do that. We can incorporate that in. So yeah, we'll do that, and we'll see you then. And it will be Wednesday. Now, the only reason that it was tonight was Thursday is because of the holiday. I kind of lost track of days, but because of the holiday on Monday and everything, all of the stuff that I was working on, because I was filming videos and stuff like the one that we showed tonight, the Black Box stuff and all, and it pushed everything back by a day, and I was like, man, Wednesday's here. It's Wednesday. And that's why you got that last minute notice that there was no class last night and it was tonight. Because I thought it was Tuesday all day. So anyhow, but such is life. Y'all have a wonderful day, and until next time, JR, Charlie, y'all have a good day. Good evening.
You too, Lenny.
If y'all have any suggestions, throw it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, of classes and all. But yeah, I mean, it can be specific. This was specific, right? How to add. This was a customer's request. Hey, how do we add things to our CNC? Like limit switches and sensors and floods and stuff like that. Show us how we can do that. So that's and that's what y'all are paying for, right? This is more so you than me. You can throw out suggestions, and we can have a class on it. It's okay if we're specific on things, because it's a collaboration. Everybody can get involved with your project, and we can kind of work through it and everything. So yeah. All right, everybody, y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll talk later. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
See you, Lenny.
See you guys. See you,
Ladies,
Charlie.
in a second.
Yep.